we have all the time in the world. This is also why we omitted certain news agencies, and I guess I should cover this, from this press conference, including the Toronto Star and CBC, who were banned from this press conference. And the reason they were banned is twofold. First, this entire week, the CBC, Toronto Star, Yahoo News was retweeting and reposting, a few others, kept putting stories out that our GoFundMe was frozen or suspended because of nefarious reasons. Right-wing truckers, that was the dangerous people. And it was hysterical. Me and Tamara were talking. Remember one day when the Toronto Star story came out that GoFundMe has frozen the account, and I called her, and I says, everything okay? She's like, yeah, I just got off the phone with them 45 minutes ago. They're great. They're helping out. Everything's going to be sorted out. That was purely just a fake story. And was that fake story to sabotage the donations that were coming in? Probably. We'll see a lot of that in media. And then when the Toronto Star put that cartoon that Jordan Peterson put up, that sort of extremism, we're not going to tolerate. So we know if we had invited the Toronto Star, CBC, all these mainstream news organizations, they always do, and Kean, I'm sure you've seen it many, many times. They'll come in with 5 people, and they'll have these giant cameras, and they'll take up half the floor space and bully everybody else. And that's not what this is about. This is about us coming together, talking to one another, answering any questions that you have. If we have the answer, we'll tell you. If we don't have the answer, we'll tell you. We don't know. And just have a nice conversation with each other and go from there.
Can I ask, what's the status of the truckers? I had heard that not all of them got to the Hill yesterday. Some are stuck outside of the city still. What's going on? Where are they sitting? Are they well fed? What's going on?
The problem is when people ask the truckers, which truckers? There's so many convoys coming from different places. We've all lost track of them. There's a couple of convoys coming from Quebec alone, one that's coming from the Maritimes, a few from Western Canada, and they all got separated. I don't know if you saw the drone footage of the trucks, how many tens of miles long, and they were sitting for hours and hours just to make a right turn. So sections of them decide, okay, we'll turn around, we'll take a different route. And the Canadian infrastructure couldn't handle the number of truckers that were coming in mass in one direction. So that gives an idea of how many there were. We did have that issue last night where the truckers were held over on the highway and they couldn't get into Ottawa. Last I heard, it was getting resolved. Do you know the status of it?
I've been speaking with the guys. A lot of them were able to get turned around, went back up to the truck stop, regroup.
Okay.
They're going to be coming back in with smaller groups apparently.
Okay, yeah. So that's yes, no, all answers all at once. There's just such an overwhelming number of trucks that it's become a logistics nightmare, which is great. That's what we want. We want a logistics nightmare for the government because they solve all our problems, right? Well, they can solve this problem for us.
This is an easy way to fix this.
Yeah,
super easy.
Yeah, that's right.
How long do you guys plan on staying in Ottawa? How long will this go? Is it till you get what you want?
Well, it's going to be summer soon, right? So right now, yeah, it's really cold, but we hang in there. The days are going to get longer. We can take this block party and put it in overdrive, have some dancing outside in the heat. So we're in this for the long haul.
More
we
than
don't
2
have
weeks.
a time limit. The thing is with trucks, it's interesting because they're designed to be on the road, especially the long haul ones, for an indefinite period of time. As long as you keep fuel in them, they can sit there for weeks and months. And now we have, I don't know, $8 million?
It's probably over 8.5 now.
So $8 million worth of fuel, so I don't know, 2023, 2024, I guess we can do. Right?
All right, those are my questions.
Next.
Andrew Lawton, True North. Since you brought up the money, what are your costs at this point that have been spoken for of the GoFundMe?
Well, we'll be using it primarily to pay some of these truckers. A lot of these truckers have lost their jobs and have nothing, right? So it's going to be primarily for that. And I guess we're going to have to look at rooms because if we have to stay, we may need some rooms and food and stuff like that. That's what it's primarily primarily designed for. When we set it up, it was to cover the cost of the journey. So, yeah, primarily fuel. That's probably one of the biggest.
I mean, there's all sorts of other expenditures
Yeah.
that will occur. So, for example, I mean, trucks do have regular things that occur. They may have GPS sensors or whatever it might be. That's why we say cost of the journey in the GoFundMe, because there's going to be some sort of miscellaneous costs we never even anticipated. One thing's for sure, the money's not for us. We're not touching it. This is for them. They're the ones who are making the sacrifice. They're the ones who are sitting there in the truck overnight and, starting it every few hours to get some heat in the cabin. That's where the money's going.
Is any of it going to compensate truckers who have not been able to work or are not working because they're partaking in the convoy?
I guess that's to be determined. It depends if they're involved or their level of involvement in the journey coming here, right? That's really the primary focus. We also never anticipated that we would have this amount of engagement and support and donations. It's given us a little bit of flexibility, primarily allowing us to take over, to take this movement and extend it. Originally you get 20 grand, you get a few trucks, you come here, you hang out for a few weeks, you send a message to the government. But now for us, for blue collar people, this is kind of endless resources when it's focused just on that primary goal of fueling them, keeping them fed. A lot of them, we say keeping them fed. Most of these trucks, they have a house attached to them, so they have a fridge, they have protein bars and foods and non-perishables, so they can sit there for months. They're already taken care of. But if people need, we'll be helping them with that as well.
The Ottawa police confirmed yesterday not a single incident of violence reported, not a single injury. What's your response to the media that, generally speaking, put the narrative in the last week that this was just a powder keg waiting to explode?
Are those the same guys who said our GoFundMe was broken? I don't know, fake news media? That's why they're not here.
Can I just jump into something? Last night, a black shirt from the Ottawa Police,
Yes.
a ranking officer from the Ottawa Police was giving a press conference, and he was asked the same question, what about the January 6th movement? What about the violence? What about if they try and take government? And the Ottawa Police guy just said, they're cool as cucumber, and he said, I understand what's going on in America. I understand what our American brothers are doing, but this is Canada. This is a peaceful country. We see no intent whatsoever coming from anyone who has any violent tendencies towards the government. So the Ottawa Police, God bless their hearts, that one guy dismantled the entire January 6th narrative, if you will, and I think it took him like 20 seconds. It was brilliant.
And we've been working with local law authorities all across the way, and they've all been fantastic, right? Like, we got an escort through Ontario.
It was Manitoba border. We were picked up by unmarked OPP.
Yeah.
And they continued us all the way through to Ottawa. The
Yeah.
entire way. Full communication, full support. Hats off to
Chris was on the phone with them probably once
That's one
every
of my
couple
voices
hours.
is on.
Yeah, like, they were fantastic.
It's been absolutely amazing.
Mandy Dalton, National Telegraph. Has anybody from Justin Trudeau's staff reached out to talk to anybody at all, or is he still hiding away?
What are you talking about? It's the weekend. Isn't he in Tofino or something? I understand something.
He's self-quarantining for his negative test, but he was exposed to COVID.
Well, he's self-quarantined for a negative test, and then 24 hours later, he was going on a trip with his family.
Oh, I didn't
Pick
see
one.
that.
Which one is it?
They
Right?
they whisked him away from security, is what I was told.
Little snowflake. He's just-
So no one at all has reached out for any kind of statement.
Why would they? The
Just
entire
ignoring
world is
the thousands
fixated
and
on this.
thousands
We're
of
just
people?
we're just a little minority fringe
Yes.
country.
Yeah.
12 trucks.
12
trucks. 12
Yeah.
trucks.
12 trucks? Who said 12 trucks?
The Liberal government is not who
I
said
think
that.
it was on the news media. I believe it was Sandy Ronaldo something.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
BBC said about 100 trucks arrived in Ottawa.
That's
Yeah.
good, right?
Has
I
it-
think it's a race to the bottom to see whose reputation is going to be destroyed first. Politicians like Justin Trudeau and the Liberal Party, or the mainstream media. It's a tight race. Right?
And do you see this making a difference? Like, ideally, yes, mandates will be dropped, but
It already has.
well, I saw
Yeah.
in Saskatchewan,
They're getting rid of the COVID passport.
Ontario is pretty hard on their restrictions. They're one of the worst. Do you see them making a difference in Ontario? Or do
Well,
you
and
think
that's-
they're going to dig in for as long as they can?
You bring up something very interesting, which is we all talk about Justin Trudeau because we started with the mandates and the entry passport into Canada. This I call it the Stasi passport. Okay, but let's not forget our provincial leaders. And all the provincial leaders that have been locking us down, you know what they are? They're conservative. So we're not going to play this game anymore that the liberals are good and the conservatives are, sorry, the liberals are bad and the conservatives are good. No, they're all horrible. All of them. They should be ashamed of themselves. So this is not a partisan movement. That's why you don't see political parties. You know, they're all trying to posture. Aaron O'Toole showed up with a trucker. But if you look at even the picture they took, nobody around Aaron O'Toole is even remotely interested in the conversation. So the first thing is, I think we're going to see shifts, hopefully, within the direction of the Conservative Party. Aaron O'Toole could be yoinked out and replaced with somebody. And I think you're starting to see some waves also in the Liberal Party. That's why you notice they were floating stories about, well, maybe Chrystia Freeland would be the new leader. Good God, would be just as bad, if not worse. But at least there's some sort of shift. They're testing in terms of messaging. Is it time to get rid of Prime Minister Blackface? I mean, Trudeau.
Are you guys pleased? Maxime Bernier has sort of had a rally here in downtown Ottawa today. Are you associated with him at all? Are you pleased with the support he's given the convoy? What's your thoughts on the?
We're not associated. We took a vote as an organization. All the committee heads are the organizers, and we are not partisan. We had he reached out to us, and a couple other ones reached out to us and wanted to get up and speak, and we said no. That's not what we're about. This is a grassroots movement, and no politicians are going to represent us. I mean, they're kind of the reason we're in this mess in the first place.
And the last thing we want is to have this whole idea of unity amongst Canadians from across the political spectrum and the cultural spectrum, to have that be detonated by politicization. So we're trying to avoid that. This is for Canadians, not for political parties.
When Parliament resumes this week, are you guys expecting that the convoy that's clogging up Wellington is going to cause them any difficulties? Do you expect the Liberals to even show up to work when you guys are here? Will the Conservatives, have you any idea?
Well, I think on the Liberal side, you'll see our strong leaders hide behind Zoom. Which is funny, an app that Google and Tesla said they will not allow on their platforms because it's spyware from the Chinese government. Yet our government is using it. Anyways. But so I anticipate them hiding behind Zoom, and the Conservatives, I anticipate them slowly trickling out. I have had people in the Conservative Party reach out to me, MPs who I've known for quite some time, quietly, we're supportive, and I'm like, that's great. You can get out there and show yourself and show that you're a leader, because you don't have a leader right now. So that, by the way, that would be my message to the Conservative Party. We all know Aaron O'Toole. Great. We look forward to meeting the leader of the Conservative Party.
Could I just, so I can get it on tape,
Yep.
could you guys state your names and your organization?
Sure.
Tamara Leach, Freedom Convoy 2022. Organizer, one of the co-organizers.
Can I spell your name?
Yes, of course. It's TAMARALICH.
Benjamin Victor. And I don't know, just a guy, drives a truck. Do a few other things, but that's primarily my focus here.
Where did you come from?
Ontario, from Toronto.
Chris Barber. I'm a business owner, trucking company owner in Saskatchewan, cross border. The guy that put all this kind of together with a few other people via an angry social media post. Barber, B-A-R-B-E-R.
And just one more question from me, kind of on a specific topic, but in general, I know a lot of people have kind of given up on humanity in general over the course of all this. But for myself personally, like on the convoy out here at the stop, seeing people going around giving out boxes and boxes of party sandwiches, bags made up, like it had us in tears, bags with kids drawing notes for the truckers and writing them letters on cookies. Like
It was so moving.
Really
And we
was.
were, that's going to make me emotional, but we had so many people that would come up and hug us and just say, tell their stories about how they've lost everything, or their mother died alone, or, their
this lady, she was from Ontario. She had a 12-year-old boy who has muscular dystrophy, and he was rapidly losing the mobility in his hips because he couldn't go to a swimming pool for his swimming therapy.
Oh.
But underneath all those stories that are so heartbreaking is just this determination and this resilience, right, of the Canadian people. And I mean, we've already won because look at all those people out there. Yesterday, I've never seen so many smiles, right? Everyone's got hope again, and everyone's feeling pride to be a Canadian again, which is something that we haven't felt for so long, which is really important. So in that sense, we've already won.
Do you think this was more of a cultural moment in Canadian history than it was political?
Absolutely.
You guys oppose the vaccine mandates, but not necessarily vaccines.
To be clear, we're not
You're not
anti-vax.
anti-vaccine.
No, not at all.
Okay.
It's been a narrative that's been put out since the start.
Yeah, I'm fully vaccinated.
You're fully
I am.
vaccinated. Okay.
So,
And so you're just opposed to the vaccine mandates. So my question is, for a lot of these truckers, there's a lot of cross-border trucking that happens between the U.S. and Canada. And so how are you, they're going to need to prove that they're vaccinated when they go into the U.S. So how are you dealing with that issue?
well, what I explained when I was on Tucker Carlson,
Okay.
From some of our sources, that the U.S. government, the Biden administration, had zero interest in this program. It was the Trudeau government that lobbied and reached out to the Biden administration and encouraged them to adopt this process, this platform, just like in Canada. So the Americans have us to thank for it. And as I explained, we don't know. Everybody's trying to figure out, people on the inside, what were the terms of the deal? Why is the U.S. accommodating Canada? We don't know. Are they sharing data amongst each other? Is stuff being funneled to the NSA, and they're going to use that to create a Canadian database? We don't know.
Well, while the Supreme Court struck down Biden's mandate about a couple of weeks ago, that's not going to apply to Canadian truckers. They'll still have to show proof of vaccination when they enter the U.S. So how then, are they, I'm just trying to understand how your opposition to vaccine mandates then applies to what truckers are going to be confronted with when they go to the U.S.
Well, I think what you'll see is there will be, once things change here, the mandate and the passport is removed from Canada.
Do you think that's going to happen? Do you think Justin Trudeau will have a change of heart?
If he wants to eat, yeah, because this is the supply chain saying we're not doing it. And I think once that change happens here, that will just be further motivation for the United States. I mean, all they're doing is the Biden administration is making the opposition stronger. And we know who that opposition is, and we don't want to say that word because the mainstream media will lose their mind. But they're just making that opposition stronger.
Can I interject something here? Just as well, you just mentioned the supply chain. The trucking industry is the supply chain at the end of the day. About 60% of everything across the border carried by trucks. All your food carried by trucks. You got a phone? It was in a truck at some point. Before the pandemic, and this goes back more than 5 years, the trucking supply chain itself in Canada was suffering. They can't get parts, they can't get tires, they can't get electronics. The price of this stuff is going through the roof, and a good deal of it is because Chinese mainland companies control most of the parts industry now. Brake drums for a Class 8 truck are getting hard to find. Tires are hard to find. All the little black boxes that make the three main computers on a Class 8 truck work are becoming impossible to find. Also, the cost, it used to be $20 for a headlamp and a truck driver and a Phillips screwdriver, the number 3 bit. 20 minutes, $20, and he goes. Now, if he blows a headlamp, he's got to go into the dealer, spend $1,000 Canadian for a headlamp assembly with an LED module and a wiring harness to replace it, and he can't do it himself. So I did an interview with Richard Surratt on Saga 690 AM. It's been posted on the internet if you want to go look for it. And we explained in detail how the trucking industry in Canada is being slowly strangled. And the single biggest problem is parts are not available, and the parts are phenomenally expensive.
And I'll give you a direct,
and this is China's hand on them.
I'll give you a direct example. I just blew my turbo last month on my truck, which happens over time. I got the last turbo in the entire province, and normally it would have been X number of thousands of dollars. It was 20% more, and it was the only one I could get. So what a lot of us have been doing as well is any sort of foreseeable maintenance we would need in the next year, we're just buying it now and either stocking it or putting it on the truck now because we don't know if we're going to be able to get parts, 6 months from now.
And this problem is 5 years old. The pandemic just made it worse.
Yeah.
I do have a question. In Quebec, we've seen some of the worst mandates anywhere in the world, really. I've noticed there's a lot of Quebecers out protesting today and yesterday. What's been the response from the Quebec trucking industry? Have you noticed it's been stronger than you expected?
Yes, and I was in Massachusetts last week, and I was at a destination waiting for an hour, 2 hours, and there was another Canadian, a Quebec trucker, who came in. So we ended up having coffee together in his cab. He's like, his English was okay. He's like, I need to practice English. Come. But yeah, he was telling me how ridiculous that province is. The lunatic that is running that province. Aviva Prize and covering this online. The guys have got to be thrown out of office and be charged on crimes against humanity. Absolutely unacceptable. But yeah, the entire truck industry in Quebec has been very, very supportive. That's why we had a convoy coming from there.
Yeah.
And because of him, we have him to thank, I believe, for the extent of the unification of Quebecers with the rest of Canada, with Albertans. You know how many times I saw people from Alberta and Quebec yesterday just coming together, talking with each other? It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing.
We were at the Chateau Laurier yesterday chanting liberté, liberté. And so, here's a bunch of Anglos, a bunch of people from Ontario standing next to Quebecois folks with an Alberta flag chanting liberté. And it's kind of like, wow, that was Canadian. And a guy holding a Quebec flag with a hockey stick. I almost died.
And what's so amazing about it is, I grew up in Toronto.
Yeah.
I live in downtown Toronto. I always had family in Alberta, in Calgary. We've discussed it before. But I always loved going to Quebec.
Yeah.
So I was always in this weird sphere where I'd go to see my family in Alberta, and they'd go, oh, Toronto thinks it's the center of the world, and Quebec wants all the transfer payments. All of that is dying now. And they're realizing that it's these lunatics in our government that are causing all of it. But all of us on the ground, yeah, we have cultural differences, but we respect our cultural differences. And they're features. They're features that we can, embrace of each other. So, yeah.
One of the ironies of this is that truckers from Quebec are going to be a part of a Canadian cultural moment where we reestablish unity in Canada.
That's right.
And if that doesn't bend your mind, I don't know what will.
I have another question. I've been looking at Twitter a lot, and those who oppose the convoy, they'll call you guys the Karen convoy. Say, they'll be like, well,
They're so
no,
funny.
they say they'll say, why don't they just take the vaccine? Why, from the conversations you've had, why for these people, why do you think it's their choice, is so unfortunate? What would you have to say to people who simply, have trouble understanding why somebody is choosing?
Well, you've hit the nail on the head. Firstly, there's not one reason. We're all individuals, so people have different reasons for it, right? I have friends who had the first vaccine, and they had this major adverse reaction, and they had started getting bruises all over them. They went to their doctor, and their doctor said, you know what, just don't take the next one. I'm not sure why, let's just hold them up. So there's those people. Then there's other people that I know, like the guy who broke the story on the convoy, Mark Petroni. He was the first one ever to cover it, remember?
Yeah.
He would get vaccinated, but he's not going to have the government to tell him what to do. No, I am my own autonomous person. So there's a whole bunch of variables and different reasons why people who don't get the vaccine haven't gotten it, and that's their choice.
So Benjamin, how much support did you receive from the different communities from Canada, communities, especially those who escaped, from the totalitarian governments and come to Canada and feel like, oh, things are changing also in Canada?
What's crazy is the primary communities, because it's not just one, that have been supportive of us from a geopolitical and human rights standpoint has been people who came here from Eastern Europe. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of people from Eastern Europe descent, whether they're from Poland or Belarus or whatever, that are in the trucking industry. We think, oh, that's just your average white Canadian. No, talk to him. Hear his accent. He's from Eastern Europe. And those people haven't forgotten socialism and the direction that we're going down, and they're the most concerned. So you see all the videos on social media yesterday from the Sikh community. There's all these Sikh people saying, you know, I want my freedom. I came to Canada for freedom. I'm not giving up my freedom so easily, and call me a white supremacist sort of thing, and mocking the Twitter bots.
Have you had substantial support from that community? Because I saw on Twitter a lot of people trying to debunk that, saying, sure, there's 60% of the trucking industry here in Canada, but most of them are vaccinated and they're not part of this protest. What do you have to say to that?
I don't know. I think that's more of the media narrative, which can be summarized with "Don't believe your lying eyes," right? And there's so many people from these various communities that want basic freedoms in Canada. That's what we came here for. Justin Trudeau, that's your identity, freedom. That's what these people are telling you. And those have been some of the most powerful voices to remind Canadians that is our fundamental.
I have been struck by the diversity of people who've shown up, children, young, old, people of color, black, white, Chinese, Canadian, you name it. I've seen everybody there. But also we've had some reports of some problematic photos that have been circulating on social media of someone walking around with a Confederate flag and someone else walking with a swastika on a flag. What do you have to say to that? Are those people part of your movement?
Okay, so
Yeah.
first thing.
Yeah.
Chris is Canadian. She's Métis. I'm Jewish. Okay? And I was mortified last night when I saw there's an organization called CIJA, and CIJA is run by a guy who thinks he's going to be as a liberal senator. His name is Shimon Fogle. And he'll do anything and say anything that Trudeau does to get him into that position. So I go to CIJA. These are the leaders of my community. They're pathetic. They really are. They're what's fueling anti-Semitism in Canada. Because somebody pulls up some random, we call it the hoax hate. You hear this hoax hate all the time. Oh, somebody painted a swastika on a trash can. It's backwards. Right? So they're clearly not committed to the cause. Right? Yeah, people troll, do stupid things, whatever.
Right.
Who cares? But what do they do? Anytime you see something like that, the leaders of that community, they're outraged. This is disgusting. And for the rest of us, it's fueling the hate towards the rest of us. So ignore it. Really. These are political hacks that they hide behind the veil of activism for the community. And you know what they do for the community? Nothing but make it worse for all of us. Whereas those of us, regular people, just want to come together and unify. So you want diversity? Guess what? You have diversity right here. And we don't care. Because we're just Canadian. That's it.
What about, there was reports that Antifa would be sending in instigators. Have you seen any evidence of anything like that? Anyone sent in to instigate? Like I've been telling everyone, don't take the bait just in case,
You've heard of people defacing monuments or urinating on war memorials and that sort of stuff. That's not our people.
That's
We would
not our
never do
people.
that. Nobody associated with that is doing it.
And the other thing that's interesting, I mentioned on stage during my speech that this news agency or national, whatever it's called, the guy who keeps messaging me, won't leave me alone. He sent me the Terry Fox controversy. What Terry Fox controversy? They put a piece of paper or a plaque or whatever. It was a printout that said mandate freedom and a Canadian flag. If you think that's controversial, I think you need to leave Canada and move to China, right? Because that is not controversial. That is the spirit of us. And guess what? There's some of us in Canada who still have a sense of humor, right?
And so this convoy, I know it's regarding the vaccine mandates in general, or in specific, but is it just for vaccine mandates or all restrictions like the masking, the work at home?
Everything.
And that's been one one of the most beautiful things that we've seen here, because all these stops and all these people are coming together, and you can see them smiling, right?
Yeah.
You know, we went through Headingley and Winnipeg, and that was still our biggest. There was
yeah.
thousands,
Winnipeg
and
area took
on
a
the side of the road was some beautiful native drummers, and there was Catholic nuns and
I saw that.
standing beside, you know, some lovely Hutterite ladies, and you know, these people of all these different ethnicities and cultures that are coming together, and it was moving.
Yeah, it was amazing.
It was amazing.
And you know what I think the CBC was upset at about the War Memorial? There was a truck parked in a certain area of the War Memorial on a pad. That's the pad that the media usually parks their trucks at. So they're probably upset that we took their parking spot.
Yeah, just by way.
You can Twitter, we can now report that the protesters affected by what some others have done, additional war memorial, have said they are only watching on other protesters taking it up themselves. It's a bit trash. Just want my editor just wants to confirm that's true.
I saw them as we walked by this morning.
Yeah, I'm
What?
actually.
Say what?
That there are some folks from this movement parked up not on the War Memorial property, but next to it, and just standing around, just keeping an eye on it.
Yeah.
few of the guys last.
I've also seen a video
They said-
happening.
Yeah, the command center sent a team just to keep an eye on it, just to make sure, because we know it's a fake news story. We're fighting two fights. One, we're fighting the Trudeau government, the mandates, and the passports. But the other is we're fighting the smears from the dirty, dirty smear merchants, otherwise known as legacy media.
Which has started breaking start.
Yeah, from the very beginning. So if there's another lesson we can all learn from this, legacy media, turn it off. Just ignore it. There's nothing true there. It's exclusively narrative journalism at this point.
Just on the note of the different community representations, I was wondering if you could speak about the Indigenous aspect on this, and not just the volume, but specifically the why. I mean, what are the issues that they're bringing to this that might be distinct from issues other communities are bringing to these mandates and restrictions?
Well, I think, for example, I connected with the clan mother when this all started from the Northwest Territories, and she was with us at the service today. Her and another clan mother from Gift Lake. And I just think that it's so important because they are such a huge part of our history. We have a prime minister who's been promising clean drinking water on these reserves since before he was elected, and still nothing's been done, right? And I think it's important. We have to support them and we have to help them, and it's time to work together. And their message needs to be heard, and their message needs to be understood.
So you would consider yourselves allies to your movement is also a movement for something greater than just the mandates. You
It's for every
for
Canadian.
clean water and
Yes, yeah, we have a lot of work to do, and we've been in lockdown for so long, and people have lost so much. We have a lot of healing to do, but so do our First Nations people, and we can only do that if we do it together.
And just on the vaccine mandate in particular, I heard as a grandmother this morning had spoken a little bit about how Indigenous women in particular have significant reason to be distrustful of the government. And is that something you're hearing broadly even across different Indigenous communities?
I should have brought Noe up there.
Yeah.
She could have spoken to that actually. From her, yes, yeah. I mean, she when she was speaking this morning, she was talking about the importance of women in their culture and in all of our cultures, because we are the life givers, right? And the importance of our men to stand up for us and protect the women and the children. And we've kind of lost that. I mean, I think if you listen to what the government has been doing, what I hear from the government anyways, is they're trying to pull that family unit apart, right? Just like they're trying to pull and divide and tear so many different aspects of Canadians apart. And that's not what a leader does. A leader brings people together. If they don't destroy them and tear them apart.
Or call them names.
Or call them names. Jagmeet Singh's tweet. Oh my God.
Oh, he's irrelevant.
Right?
Yeah.
Terrible.
Just to clarify, so you're strictly non-partisan movement, but you would like to affect politics at the margin. So, in the sense that you would want to see something different happen with the Conservative Party, for example, as you mentioned earlier. Given the support that you've had, where does this take you in the future? Because do you see yourselves evolving into a political organization at some point? I mean, to effect change, you kind of have to
To a degree. I mean, this is not going to be another political party. We're not going in that direction. But that doesn't mean we can't coalesce around the ideas of this movement of unity and be the strong voice for Canadians to put pressure on our entire political class that has failed us. They're all incompetent, right? So they're going to need a little nudge here and there. So they can sit back and try to ignore us as much as they can. And you know what's going to happen? More and more. I have media requests from all over the world. From Latin America, England, parts of Europe, Australia. They're all trying to get some sit-down time with us to talk. If they think they're going to ignore it, great. You know what? Something is going to come up in that vacuum and replace them. So if they don't realize the amount of opportunity they have to become a voice for change, then that just kind of proves my point of their incompetence. But somebody will. What we want is we want a good, capable political class of people. Like, I have no interest in office. I have no interest running for office. She doesn't. We're just not. That's not our sphere. But we would like to have good people in there, and we can help pave the path for those people when they start to listen. Right now, they're not listening. Well, they're not listening, but maybe those horns outside of Justin Trudeau's office might change that.
They're hard to ignore.
Do you think that political elites have underestimated the anger and frustration in the country?
Oh, big time.
You mentioned that you want to meet the leader of the Conservative Party, and it's certainly not Aaron
Yeah,
O'Toole.
yeah.
Whoever that is. There's been a few MPs that have come out to meet with the Convoy, and a few MPs that have been quite vocally supportive of the Convoy. Is there anyone that you would like to see lead the Conservative Party, if not Aaron O'Toole? Pierre?
Less than Pierre, maybe. I think if the Conservative Party is smart, which they're not, because I was a candidate in the past, so I know those people. Love some of them, but they're really not bright. If they were smart, they would pull Aaron right now, get him out of there. They would put in an interim leader, whether it's Pierre or Leslin, and we all think that Pierre resonates with the vast majority of Canadians in his opposition to Justin Trudeau. He's been very effective. Would he be effective as a leader of the country? That I don't know, but definitely in opposition, he's been great. I think if they pulled Aaron immediately and they went into a snap election as quickly as they can, bring down the government, and they campaigned with an interim leader with the option of maybe running, I think his career would end very, very quickly. And if they don't, the fact that they don't see that opportunity in front of them is crazy to me. And it's so plainly obvious.
Thanks.
We're kind of here today with Aaron O'Toole because Canada lacks true political accountability. We don't have recall legislation. We don't have public primaries. Do you think that really in order for this to not be in this situation again where, a lot of Canadians, millions of Canadians, really don't have a voice in Parliament, do you think that significant reforms have to be made to our political or electoral system?
I'm going to say a very unconservative thing and say yes. Yes, we are living with not quite a medieval system, but we are living with an antiquated system that needs to be somewhat modernized. I think I have learned so much from this woman about the Native communities and the Native experience in Canada. And, as conservatives, we're often, I don't want to say dismissive, but we just don't understand their experience that they have. But I think they're indicative of exactly what you're talking about, that we need to modify the system somewhat, make it more open, more transparent, because right now it's run by lobbyists, and the lobbyists control who becomes a candidate for whichever, but it's not unique to any party, it's all of them. So yeah, I think I agree with you 100%.
You just raised a point too about Canadians lacking a voice. So here's the dirty secret about the Canadian government and the way it's represented. There's 100% of people in Canada who are allowed to vote. So that's everybody that's on the Canada Elections Act list. So you're a registered voter, great, that's 100%. Justin Trudeau just became Prime Minister, and around 21% of registered voters in Canada voted for Justin Trudeau and the Liberal Party. 80% of registered voters in Canada did not vote for Justin Trudeau and the Liberal Party. Now, in fairness, 30% of them didn't vote at all, so that's their issue. But the reality is Justin Trudeau's mandate, as he calls it in Parliament, rests on the shoulders of 21% of Canadians. So when he talks about fringe minorities, my point to Mr. Trudeau would be, sir, you are the fringe minority, you are the 20%. It's the 80% of Canadians who you're not representing that have the problem. So the fringe minority is Prime Minister Trudeau, and that's Canada Elections Act numbers.
I have a more personal question for the two of you now. You know, I've seen on Instagram, on Twitter, there's a lot of people calling you guys white supremacists. You said, you know, you're Métis and you're Jewish. How does it personally feel to be attacked in that way? To be really called something that you're really not? Like, are you upset, angry? Did you not mind at all? Like, how do you feel about that?
For me, it's a combination between obnoxious and hysterical. It's sometimes it's the funniest thing ever, because I don't care. Like, I'm very pro free speech. People should be able to say whatever they want, and I have the choice whether or not I'm going to engage and respond or not. I don't need the government to control that for me, right? That's not their business. They're there not to protect us. They're there to protect our rights, which is what they're negligent in, right? They've completely abandoned the charter, which is about our rights, and they think they're the ones there to coddle us. That's not their job. So yeah, it's hysterical and obnoxious. But me personally, I don't get upset. Now, that's me. However,
I haven't been paying attention, honestly. I know what they're saying, and I guess my father always said if they're talking about you, they're leaving somebody else alone. And I know who I am, and obviously they're stretching, right? Because they don't know me. They don't know my background, right? And I know this convoy has been a massive undertaking. I mean, all the logistics and everything that has to be worked out, I choose not to even read it or look at it. Every time somebody will text me something, and I just tell them, stop. Like, we have to be focused. We have a big job to do here, and I'm not going to let the negativity affect it.
and it's also the
We
funny.
just got the biggest convoy in history out here safely with him leading it. You know what I mean? So we have to stay focused, and we have to stay
Just
on
a couple of logistic questions on that. How many people two in particular, how many people would you say are part of your core organizational team or committee?
Oh,
or
no, it's big.
Oh.
How many? Between the
Oh,
control
road
center
captains,
and
we
the
have
cap-
roughly about 2 road captains per province. So there's them. Then, of course, we have a social media team. You have to understand, we had to put together an organization very, very quickly. So there is so many people involved.
It's roughly 2 weeks.
Yes.
I think, is it fair to say the core group is about 40 to 50 people?
Yes.
If you go out one chain
That's
of
right.
command
And is
out,
that core group including your captains?
Yes.
Okay.
then
So
you
you
go out one circle of analysis, you go into hundreds. Because there's all kinds of people who are volunteering to do work. So at the truck stop, Herb's Travel Plaza in Van Cleek Hill, a whole bunch of people doing the adopt a trucker thing. And a lot of those people just took it upon themselves to say, okay, what do you need? I'll help, I'll organize, I'll print posters, I'll do this. So there's kind of core group, first layer of analysis, or first layer of chain of command, if you will, out. And then beyond that, there's the third layer, which goes into the thousands and no one knows. By way of interest, I mean, the Sikh community, Jagmeet Singh has made some of the most vicious comments ever about white supremacists and all this. The organization did the thing they called the Three of Us, myself, Ben, and Tamara, white supremacists, I just put on record, is funded by Justin Trudeau, so enough of that. But I've noticed the Sikh community is out in huge numbers at all the truck stops, handing out food, handing out blankets, and it's like, it's organic. It's coming from the Sikh community. It's not coming from the convoy. Nonetheless, they're a part of the team, so. There, like I said, there's like multiple layers of people helping out here.
And what Chris wants to also comment on is go to adoptatrucker.ca. So it's adopt-a-trucker.ca. People have been volunteering their homes and their beds for truckers who need a place to stay or food or whatever. That's really the conduit space where they can go to if they want to, contribute their house overnight, if they have something they want to contribute. Also registration forms for more trucks who want to come, because at some point we need to start getting them on a database. We have a bunch of them now. I don't know how many tens of thousands. We stopped counting because we just got overloaded. So that's going to be the conduit where people will be able to communicate and donate their homes and food.
It's just if I can, the other logistic question, the most controversial, contentious thing that will ever be discussed, the count. Have you been given from law enforcement, or do you have your own count of vehicles or people?
We lost track.
I've been trying to get the road captains all in one room this whole entire week. It's like herding cats.
When we separated, we gave Ontario the shill for the North Road on Highway 11. We gave the 17. We had 480 vehicles in the South Road. I would imagine that the group of us are split into two, so we're roughly 1,000 vehicles coming across from the west.
Yeah.
And that's just one small convoy.
100 kilometers long.
Starting point would be how many hotel rooms are there in Ottawa?
Yeah, exactly. You know what? And you laugh. That is the indicator, because we were on the phone with some of these, supporting role for all of us, and a couple of them were on the phone, looking at hotels to hotels to book, and in real time they were watching hotel by hotel being booked up.
Yeah.
So that's got to tell you something, right?
You'd asked a question about whether this is a political moment or a cultural moment. At the moment, it's a global cultural moment. Just by way of explanation, I'm ex-military, ex-intelligence. I worked for the RCMP for 7 years as an intelligence contractor, doing counterterrorism and investigations into politicians and
Host
judges.
of the Quiggin Report podcast, by the way. Go to thequigginreport.com. Like, share, and subscribe.
Okay, I'm also ex-PCO. I used to work for the Intelligence Assessment Secretariat, which provides intelligence advice to the Prime Minister and the Cabinet. So I'm part of that group. But I've got and I'm also an ex-central banker. I did risk analysis for the G10 central bank. So I am getting things from around the world, from Australian journalists, risk advisors for major European financial institutions. What prompted me to talk is I know a guy who's an actual samurai. Not some guy who thinks he's a samurai, but an actual sword-carrying samurai. And he saw the picture of the clan mothers this morning. So you've got samurai supporting this. It's just unreal. Convoys in Europe, convoys in Italy, convoys in Australia. Donald Trump, God bless his heart, came out yesterday at a rally and said, did you see those Canadian truckers? They're doing more for freedom in America than American leaders are doing for freedom in America. And you're just kind of like, okay, here we go. It is a global cultural movement which is pushing back against Build Back Better, against cultural Marxism, against progressivism, against Klaus Schwab, against Bill Gates, against the World Economic Forum. For everybody that says the Great Reset and all that stuff is a hoax, there is a book called COVID-19 and the Great Reset, written by Klaus Schwab, the head of the World Economic Forum. Just so you'll know, Prime Minister Trudeau on his website supports the Great Reset. Our beloved Minister of Finance, also known as our Deputy Prime Minister, the Honourable Chrystia Freeland, is on the Board of Trustees of the World Economic Forum. So when people say, I don't understand where Trudeau's going, what's he doing, why does he do all these things? There's an agenda. It's the progressive agenda, it's the post-national agenda, it is the Build Back Better agenda of Mr. Biden, the American president, and Kamala Harris, the vice president. So what you've accidentally done or deliberately done or whatever, Tamara, she helped organize my tour in Alberta, which is how I got mixed up with this. If we don't all wind up in jail. Anyway, we have put a finger, I think, on the pulse of the people of the world. So I made that comment to you about Justin Trudeau as the minority because he represents 21%. Every other country has the same problem. What's being represented here, I think, is the 80% who are tired of being voiceless, tired of being told they're bad, tired of being told to shut up, and tired of being told they're going to be restricted. And what you've done is you've hit the moment at the perfect time.
If you had some final words to not politicians or media, but to Canadians who may or may not support this convoy, why are you doing it in just a few sentences?
We're doing it because we need change. We need to be unified for the first time. And we need to understand the enemy is not each other, whether it be our religion or race or culture. That's not the enemy. We're all a unified country. The enemy, or the problem, let's say, is the political class who are pushing us into serfdom. And if you don't speak up now and you don't get engaged, this is not going to end. And this is your opportunity. Whether they completely understand or they're pro-vaccine or they're anti-vaccine, that's not the point. The point is your basic freedoms. And if you want to maintain your basic freedoms, this is the movement that is there for you to grasp, to help.
Thank you.
Just one more quick thought on the global cultural movement you talked